The BMW Mini is 20 years old, the Fiat Panda and Audi Quattro both turn 40, and it's 50 years since the original Range Rover was launched. The Morgan 4.4 has now been around for an incredible 70 years, while Mazda celebrates its centenary. But there's one motoring anniversary that we just had to celebrate: 125 years of Skoda. Having produced everything from motorbikes to limousines, the Czech brand has come from building opulent Grand Tourers before the Second World War to being derided and out of favour during the 70s and 80s until its return to form under Volkswagen Group ownership. It's not often you'll see a bicycle here on AutoMundial, but this is where it all started in 1895 for mechanic Václav Laurin and bookseller Václav Klement. Both keen riders, the two friends found it difficult to find spare parts for their German-built bikes, so they decided to have a go at making their own, the Slavia. Thankfully, by the end of the 19th century, they'd realised that engines were the future and began producing motorcycles like this, the LKB. Laurin and Klement soon became the biggest bike builders in what was at the time Austria-Hungary, and by 1905 they began turning their attention to four wheels rather than two. And this is what they came up with, the Voiturette A. Named after the French term for a small cart, the Voiturette was a petite two-seater with a wood and steel body and, strangely by today's standards, a leather-lined clutch. It produced a whopping 7 horsepower and could reach heady speeds of up to 25 miles per hour.
Over the next couple of decades, the company's successes continued, building well-made cars with a 320-strong workforce until 1924, when a disastrous fire at the L&K factory in Mladá Boleslav brought the company to its knees. Thankfully, the following year, the company was saved by a successful Pilsen-based industrial conglomerate, Skoda Works. With this much-needed investment, L&K was rebranded as Skoda, and this was one of the first cars to wear the new badge, the 110. Produced between 1925 and 1929, the 110 wore both Skoda and Laurin and Klement branding, and was available in various body styles, from saloons like this car to roadsters, ambulances, and even lorries. By 1928, the company was producing up to 85 cars a day, and in 1930, production was expanded with a new facility in Prague. However, with the number of cars being sold declining due to the economic depression, Skoda aimed to boost its sales with a new type of chassis. One such car to make use of this new technology was this, the beautiful Popular Sport. Renamed as the Popular Monte Carlo after finishing second in the 1936 Monte Carlo Rally, this streamlined little coupe put the company into the limelight across Europe as it began to rack up various rally victories around the continent. With other models like the Favorit and the Superb further boosting the company profile, things were looking good until World War II. Following the end of the Second World War, Skoda was a shadow of its former self. Gone were the phaetons and limousines, with the socialist regime now imposed on Czechoslovakia by the Soviet Union, meaning citizens in the Eastern Bloc needed affordable cars like the 1101 and 1200 that the company produced in the 1940s. By the late 50s, though, the company was itching to spice things up a bit. In 1957, Skoda unveiled the stunning 1100 OHC, a two-seater sports car weighing just 550 kilos with a 1.1-litre engine producing 95 brake horsepower. The performance was blistering, and the impossibly elegant roadster went on to re-establish the company in the world of motorsport with various class wins across Europe. With a newly injected sense of fun, the company debuted the Felicia in 1959. And while it was still a cheap car by the standards of Western Europe, it did help to infuse some character into Skoda's fairly sedate lineup. Essentially a two-door convertible version of the Octavia, this cute little soft top still had seating for 5 and was even available with a detachable plastic hardtop for those cold Czech winters. And it was a huge success, with nearly 15,000 cars rolling off the production line. The Felicia proved that the company's sense of fun and design flair was still present, and by the mid-60s, Skoda was building cars outside of its home country in Ireland, Turkey and Pakistan, among others. One such foreign-built car was the Trekker. Designed and engineered in New Zealand using Octavia platforms and engines, the Trekker was designed as a sort of cut-price Land Rover. At the time, no tariffs were imposed on agricultural vehicles, meaning they could be produced and sold cheaply. All Trekkers were built in New Zealand by a local importer, but the company's engineers were on hand to ensure its success. Attempts were made to export the Trekker, with some finding their way over to Australia and the Caribbean, and some even served with the New Zealand Air Force in Vietnam. Sadly though, the build quality and reliability were poor, and fewer than 2,500 were produced before production ended in 1973.
The brand continued to produce quirky rear-engined cars throughout the 70s and 80s, with continued success on rally stages across the globe. But it wasn't until 1987 that the company released a truly mainstream car. For its new Super Mini, the company decided to bring back an old name from its past, Favorit. A huge leap forward in terms of design and engineering from its predecessor, the Estelle, the Favorit placed the engine at the front, driving the front wheels. The body was designed by Bertone, and it went on to become the brand's first true world car, with exports far exceeding anything the company had built before.
With the fall of communism, the Czechoslovakian government began seeking a strong foreign car brand to take control of state-owned Skoda. 8 different companies registered interest, with the shortlist boiling down to Volkswagen and Renault. The French marque decided it would ditch any current Skodas in favour of rebadged Renaults, and as a result, a Volkswagen offer was accepted in 1990. VW would continue to expand the lineup while continuing production of the existing Favorit. Since then, Skoda has gone from a quirky brand to one of Europe's biggest manufacturers. Skoda is still based in Mlada Boleslav, the town where it all started. While top-of-the-range cars still carry the Laurin and Klement badge, and sporty models celebrate Skoda's continued rally successes with the Monte Carlo branding.
2020 marks the dawn of a new era for the brand as it prepares to launch its new Enyaq electric SUV. To rival the likes of the Kia e-Niro and Peugeot e-2008. Once again, it's based on an existing Volkswagen platform, but we're sure it'll offer something a bit different.